Except we want the recording to have your imaging out. So I'll make come up here so we'll have your image on the screen. Okay, so again, welcome everyone. We hope to do a full slate of these presentations next semester, but it all depends on you coming forward to talk either about your country in general, its culture and agriculture, or you can even talk more specifically about a scientific topic that you're working on. Just use language that folks outside of your field would be able to comprehend. So without further ado, we are sharing. You can just share the screen. That should be fine. Yeah, but this one. And then begin the slideshow. Okay, so without further ado, Amilcar Vargas and Carlos Esquivel. Amilcar, the first time I said it, you said, "Do you speak Spanish?" I said, "What? Why? Yes, because you pronounced your name right." So 1 on 1, I pronounced his name right. 1 on 50, I messed it up.
Well, thank you, Jason, for the nice introduction. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Before I go into the presentation, I just want to talk a little bit about what you're eating. So, Jason, who made this?
Oh, yes, this is Elena Thompson, who is raising her hand right now.
I am the one.
Yeah.
You're the one. So, these are actually really good. So, these are called chuchitos. A chucho, it is a dog. It is a slang that this is pure Guatemalan slang. Chucho is a dog. So this is a chuchito, a little dog.
A chicken inside, not a dog.
Yeah. So this is a meal that is kind of like, it has no season. So we just eat it throughout the year. It's not like tamales. In Guatemala, tamales, you eat them primarily for Christmas. So these are also called chuchito de viaje or traveling chuchitos. Because what mom does, she just grabs a bunch of these, and this is a whole meal by itself. And so just take it with you. And that's what I remember when we were visiting different places in Guatemala. This is what my mom used to make. It is really delicious. And chuchito is also, as you can see, is heavily based on corn. Because corn in Guatemala has been throughout the years very important for our Maya culture. And currently, corn is still a big crop. And when I say big crop, it doesn't mean that it's a lot of land planted with corn or we have like really high yields. Not at all. It is just very, very rooted in our traditions. So to start off, we are going to go through this outline. I'm going to talk a little bit more about corn, very brief background, what corn means for Maya people, and then I'm going to transition to Amilcar, which will explain a little bit more the modern era of Guatemala. And to start off, Guatemala, it is a very, very small country. This is kind of like the beginning of this thin line that connects North America and South America. Guatemala is part of Central America. In terms of our weather, it's considered a subtropical weather. We are in around 13-degree latitude and somewhere below Nicaragua. That is what is considered the tropical climate. So we have a wet season and a dry season. It's roughly 50-50 in terms of the time during the year. Would you mind to click on the next one? Yeah. Thanks. So, and as I mentioned before, so these conditions for Mayas, it was very challenging when they were planting corn because, you know, they really need to time it when they were planting, when they were harvesting, because during the dry season it's very dry. Although corn was very important for Mayas, Guatemala is not the only origin of corn, as some of you guys might know, corn is primarily coming from Mexico. And there are three main lines of corn. The first one is the CFAES mexicana, that is considered the wild corn. There's a corn that has very poor yield and is still used to introduce some genes into our modern corn, but that is not the main line. The main line that is actually producing our modern corn is CFAES parviblumis. That is the father of corn, right? However, in Guatemala, we have our own type of corn, and we use it a lot for breeding purposes, and that is CFAES huehuetenances. This is from a very local area in Guatemala, and for the distribution of all these two corns, there is this little map here where it is simplifying where these two corns are coming from, and that is from the Tehuacan Valley in Mexico. There was a study that is actually, because we're all scientists, and we need to talk about science a little bit. There is the title of that study that they collected. They found kernels of very ancient teocintle. Teocintle is the name of the ancient corn. They sequenced the DNA and they could track down where the origin or how old that corn was, and they specify that the father of corn is actually coming from Mexico. But as I mentioned before, we also have a very unique corn in Guatemala that is actually the one that was used by Mayas. Would you want to go to the next one? So CFAES huehuetenances comes from the Huehuetenango area. This is Huehuetenango is a province in Guatemala. As you can see, this is the map of Guatemala, where you see a lot of the green is a lot of the flat land, where you see a lot of the darker colors, those are the mountains of Guatemala. So this corn grew through all the high lands of Guatemala, and it has very unique characteristics. This corn is relatively tall, very, very, very tall. It takes, I would say, like around 6 to 7 months to grow and produce. It's a very long cycle. And in terms of yield, it's relatively poor, but it's well adapted to these really high, relatively dry conditions. Next one. But as I mentioned before, even though that is a relatively not good corn, we are still using that corn for new breeding programs. And one of our heavy breeding programs is called ICTA. ICTA is an acronym in Spanish, and that is our agricultural program that focuses heavily on corn and beans. But corn is one of the main programs, and we are still using the CFAES huehuetenances to provide or enhance or create new hybrids of corn. These are not non-GMO. And by the way, there is another interesting point for Guatemala. We still do not accept, or we are not taking or allowing GMO corn in Guatemala. One of the main reasons people are concerned that there's going to be gene flow from the GMO corn into our native plants. I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon, but that is a concern. That's why we still don't have any GMOs. Next one. So as I mentioned before, would you mind to turn off the light? Is that one? So as I mentioned before, corn was very important for Mayas, and this picture here describes what they were doing at the end of the growing season. So what they were doing, they were collecting their corn, they were collecting other fruits, and as well as cacao. Cacao is the base of chocolate, but they didn't make it chocolate, they just eat it in another way. So what they were doing at the very end of the season, they were offering everything, and they were offering or trying to please the god of corn, which I'm going to explain a little bit more about who is this person or what is the importance for them into their religion. You still see this type of rituals in Guatemala. When I went with my fiance last year, we went to Esquivel. Esquivel, it is a ruin or it's a site where Mayas still go and they still pray to all these gods, and they are still offering corn and different food items to their gods. So you still see these type of rituals. And as I mentioned before, because corn it was very important for them. They throughout the years they will selecting and improving their corn. And what this figure is representing, this is taken from a book that's called the Popol Vuh. The Popol Vuh is kind of like the genesis of the Maya culture. Is think about like the Bible. We have the Genesis, how everything was created. That for them is called the Popol Vuh. And what this person is doing is growing his corn, is praying, is just wishing that that corn production will be great to feed their family. So that's kind of like what they were doing throughout the growing season. Next one, please. And as I mentioned before, corn, even though it wasn't like it was one of the main crops, but it wasn't like the main crop. It got really rooted into the Maya culture to the point that they believe that all of us are coming from corn. And I can actually, I'm going to walk you a little bit through this. So, into the Popol Vuh, the Genesis, the Bible of Mayas, they believe that everybody is coming from these two gods, Tipeo and Kutumas. So what they were doing at the very beginning, day zero, they created the land. Land raises from the water. Then they created the plants and the animals, but they realized that the animals couldn't talk. They couldn't worship them. So they start creating a man. The first man that was created, it was created with clay. And they realized that those men were very fragile. They couldn't talk. Therefore, they destroyed them. They were useless for them because they couldn't worship these two gods. Then they created a man made of wood. And these men, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they could talk, but they were not smart enough. And therefore, they say these are useless, and they become monkeys. And that's the monkeys of the Guatemalan jungle. You still see a lot of monkeys when you visit the ruins in the jungle of Guatemala. And then these two gods create Kinimich, Ahu, and Ixchel. This was a god that was supposed to help them to develop the perfect man. However, these two gods trying to become the sun and the moon, and they were trying to take control over everything. Two twin warriors, Unapu and Sabalke, they fight against this bad god, and they destroy him. They get rid of these two bad gods. These two twins, if you read the Popol Vuh, they are everywhere. They are like probably the most important heroes for Mayas. These two twins come from their father, Unapu, and his kik. Unapu is considered the greatest god into the Maya culture, and his kik is considered one of, I believe, is the god of birth. Like, you know, when women are pregnant, that's kind of like they're framed into this is the mother, into this god for the baby to get delivered. So what is happening is that then Unapu is taken into Xibalbá. Xibalbá, it is the Kikche name of the underground or hell. So he's taken by all these bad gods, I will say, and he gets killed. They get rid of Unapu because they actually are creating these children that they actually are capable to change the entire religion. So what I say is that then Unapu and Sabanque goes into the Xibalbá. They have the most epic ball game against all the souls in Xibalbá. They win, and then can actually resuscitate Unapu, and he resuscitates as the god of corn, or the maize god. So when they can actually take back Unapu from hell, they can actually now have corn, and then they use Unapu and all these other elements to create the perfect man. And that is, and they believe that all of us are made from corn. And would you mind to click on the little video? So what I just explained to you, it is briefly mentioned in this video I believe the sound should be appropriate. And so they're going to go through what I just said. It's very short.
This is an silence and water. The light, the value, the plants, the people, and the land.
Let me just
Since
restart.
they,
Here we go again.
this is an account of the beginning, when all was stillness, silence, and water. There was no light, no land, no plants, no people, and the land. 6 days, covered in green and blue feathers, lay in the primordial waters, the framer, the shaker, the cradle, and gets out surface. Along with Shuyaku and Shmugare. These deities felt the heart of sky, also known as Huracanapa, creating the earth. Their spirit essence and the miraculous power gave the earth its creative energy. Now the man had a heart. They called it Heart of Earth. Separating the sky from the earth, they planted a tall saline, making space for all life. Roots penetrated deep into the 9 levels of the land. Trunk was on the surface of the land. Branches reached up to 50 levels of the Maya level. Plants were next created to live. And the animals were created. The animals did not speak, but not work. So the deities decided to create human beings from one. First humans, souls, were not to live here. Deities tried created humans from wood. The wood people not worship either. Those that survived are said to have become. Neither now existed, but there was no sun and no moon. A vain bird called Seven Macaw claimed to be the sun and but this was not true. What makes them twins? Unanmo and Shbalake defeated Seven Macaw by shooting with darts. The hero twins were conceived from their mother, Shiki, spoke to the decapitated head of their father, Unanmo, who spit on her hand from a Unanmo had been killed by the death lords of Shibalba, the underworld. The hero twins became great warriors. Bring their father back to life. They challenged the death. In Shibalba. Twins were permitted to play the ball game only after they had survived the dangerous trial set forth in the underworld. Using great skill and cunning, twins won the ball game. This allowed their snake father to come back to life. The days of the hero twins led Shibalba climbed back to the surface of the earth. They continued up into the sky, becoming the sun. And when the sun and moon were in the sky and illuminated the earth, the days created the third fire, using white and yellow corn, precious substance that ultimately succeeded.
Thank you. So that's kind of like a brief description of what I just explained. And as I said, like, if you're curious, you can just Google it, like the Popol Vuh, and you can read a very short genesis of how they believe we all were created. Oh, you just
They have an auto play.
Explorers.
Is Explorer?
It's in Noche.
That's fine. Just a name.
They have an auto play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, it says talking Jason Owens, and I'll say one more time. If you're a vegetarian, if you RSVP but weren't able to enjoy this meal because for the first of our 37 times I forgot to get the vegetarian portion, just write vegetarian next to your name on the sign-up sheet, and you will be getting a consolation from me via campus mail. So
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so as I mentioned, so that was a brief explanation in terms of their genesis. So would you mind to go to the next one? So, and Mayas, they were huge. They were one of the greatest ancient civilizations that this earth, well, back in the day, saw. So what I'm showing here, this is Guatemala, a little bit of Central America and Mexico. Each of the dots represent one of the ruin sites that we can still go and visit, that we have registry that they actually live and grew. So in Guatemala, we have a lot of these. Went to the next one. And is somebody from Mexico here? No? Well, in Mexico, there are a lot of like great ruins that you can also go and visit. But in Guatemala, I'm just gonna like briefly mention and show you some of them that are like the most important. For instance, one of the most famous that you probably have heard about is Tikal. Tikal is the greatest metropolis that Mayas ever created. It is located in the north of the country, pretty much in the middle of nowhere. It is just jungle around it. And if you have been lucky enough to visit this place, you feel that sensation when you're just going there and you kind of like ask yourself how they actually were able to build these type of pyramids. They're really steep and very detailed. Who heard about the end of the world in 2012? Everybody. Okay, the Maya predicted. They said like, yeah, everything is going in pieces. This piece of rock right here. When I visited, we were lucky enough that it was a tourist guide that was talking about it. The 13 Baktung is a set of years. The end of the 13 Baktung is actually described in the back of this rock. So whoever read it is like, oh, there is nothing after it, so oh, we are all dying. It's actually described in this little rock right here. So this is one of the most important sites. We also have Quiriguá, which Quiriguá has these two type of rocks. Those are like very tall rocks, many feet tall. They're described, and what they typically describe on this rock is histories. Like they were like saying about the history of the beginning of everything, or a story about a battle, or like who won a game. So that is what they're trying to describe, as well as trying to worship their gods. Would you mind to the next one? Other places, Yaksha, it is again placed in the north of Guatemala, very unknown. That's kind of very surprising since they have really nice ruins to visit. Probably, I will say they are not as Tikal because they are like close to Belize, and it's kind of like hard to get there. I unfortunately have not visited this one, nor Huaxantung. Huaxantung was also what is actually Huaxantung is one of the first ruins ever created by Mayas. It's way older than Tikal, but they actually were not developed as big. Another one in Semche, that is the one that I mentioned before that I was lucky enough that I visited and they were worshiping. This is still a worship area for our Mayas to go and provide food and offer their belongings to their gods. And the last one that I want to mention that is relatively small is Saculeo. Saculeo is located in the Huehuetenango area. Do you remember when I showed you the map with where the corn was coming from? Those ruins are located in that area. But the last one that I want to mention, it is a Mirador. And probably some of you have heard about Mirador before. This is Guatemala jungle. Like, as I mentioned, there is like nothing else but just trees and plants and animals. And it's actually a really nice green area that we are still preserving. El Mirador, it is one of the mysteries that Maya never explained well. Tikal, we have a really nice record where they are where they were created, what was the end. In Mirador, there is actually very little information about it. So when you visit the Guatemala jungle, there are a lot of people that are trying to go there as scientists that they're trying to describe what is going on there. So what you see here, this is all the jungle. This is the tip of this pyramid. They're just trying to excavate and trying to see what is in there. And at the very beginning, they believed that this was just going to be a little peak, nothing very important. But you know that now we have 3D cameras and they can go deep into the soil and through the forest. And what they have found is like one of the pyramids that is called Danta, La Danta. It is much, much bigger than what they were expecting. And they are speculating that it might be actually bigger than the pyramid in Cairo. Who has visited Cairo Pyramid? One there, yeah, I went there in 2011. It's amazing. It's a massive pyramid. So they believe that the Danta will be actually even bigger, but we still don't know. They still need to go and then do all the excavation and like remove all the vegetation. So we still don't know. And there is a video that we got to play. Famous people are going there. National Geographic just visit that place and they created this little video. So this is Petén. This is the north of Guatemala. That's La Danta. They keep cleaning and cleaning more and more. It's massive. It's like kind of like hard to tell, but when you're there, you can see the dimensions of those structures. So, and as I mentioned, we're still in the process that we have no idea what we're about to find. There are some ideas, some theories, why they created such a huge structure, thinking that Tikal was the most important metropolis. And as I said, it's really hard to access to this place, and probably that's why it hasn't been explored as much. But this is more Asian time, and I'm going to turn it over to Amilcar that is going to explain what is Guatemala today.
Thank you, Carlos. So I think I'm quite excited. So now I think we have a nice story how the perfect man was created from corn, and and where, of course. Sorry. So let's go and learn about the Guatemala geography. Guatemala shares boundary with Mexico, Belize, Honduras, and Salvador. We also have access to the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean. And Guatemala has a total extension of 42,000 square miles. If you compare this, it's like a similar size to the state of Tennessee. And this geography, as you can see in this map, allows to have a different type of weather across the country. We have a lot of mountains, valleys, rivers, lakes, and volcanoes. There are three main mountain ranges in Guatemala. There's Sierra Los Cuchumatanes, Sierra Las Minas, and Sierra Madre. And along these mountain range, you're going to find about 33 or 35 volcanoes, and this number includes volcanoes that are active, dormant, or extinct. So, Carlos will mention Guatemalan highlands, and it's this area here. We consider the Guatemalan highlands because usually elevated places, temperature are between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's in this area where most of our vegetables and good coffee are produced. And here in the east, the Pacific, close to the coast, it's plains basically is where the land is dedicated to sugarcane, rubber production, of course bananas, and cattle and dairy farms are here. If we move to the east, which the region that I'm from is a hot and dry weather, and this weather allows to produce the best melons and watermelon in the country, and more of them are exported to US or Europe. Then to the north, which is where a lot of the ecological sites are located, which is Tikal and El Mirador, like Carlos was mentioning, and it's more plains and forest. Okay, so now the map that is close to the Guatemala geography map is this. In Guatemala, there are 4 languages spoken. We have Spanish, which is our official language, and then we have Guatemalan dialects, which are divided in 21. There are a lot of them. The third one is Xinca, and the fourth one is Garifuna, which originated from the Caribbean. And with this map, what I'm trying to show you is the places where these dialects are spoken. And you can see in some places, people, the lines mean that they're spoken more than two dialects in between. We have different languages talking about across the country. Okay, let's talk about Guatemala flags, sky blue. I'm gonna go kind of fast because we don't have too much time. But if you want to stop me if I'm going too fast, please do it. So two colors, sky blue and white in the middle. Guatemalan seal in the middle has a scroll of parchment with a description of Liberty, September 15, 1821. This is the date that when we got our independence from Spain. And on top of this scroll of parchment, there is a bird. Beautiful bird, and you can see it here. It's called Quetzal. In his chest is completely red. And this bird was admired and venerated by the Mayan people because symbolized liberty for them. There are two interesting facts about this bird. First one, I say, means symbolize liberty, and this bird can be kept in captivity. If you try to do that, will die. So that's because symbolize liberty. The second fact is that just the males can have the long tail. The female cannot have it. And to have it that long will take 3 solid years to have it. So our currency is really colorful. We have different bill denominations. And if you want to know for the exchange rate between a US dollar and a Guatemala, you will get for $1, 7.6 quetzal, depending on the economic situation at that point, but usually between 7 and 8. We have coins too. We have 1 cent, 5, 10, 25, and 50 cents. The last one have the same value, denomination of the 1 quetzal. Beautiful orchid. This is our national flower. It's called Monja Blanca, and it's, you want to translate it in English, it will be like the white nun. It's like because nuns use this white clothing. That's the meaning. Let's go back to the map. And where the red star is Guatemala City, which is the capital. It's situated in the valley of the Ermita Valley. Weather is really cool. It's between 7 and 8 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's the largest city in Guatemala, and it's where the political administration occurs. Guatemala City is a mixture of scenarios, as you can see on this picture. We have modern and old buildings, which make the city unique. You can be walking on one street and you'll see it to your right, old building, and to the left, you will see a nice building of modern era. It's beautiful. Then we have Antigua, Guatemala. And if you ever visit Antigua, Guatemala, you can't live without going to this.
Oh, you gotta go.
Yeah, you gotta. So Antigua, also known as Antigua, was previously Guatemala's capital. And again, it's situated in another valley. And this valley, well, sorry, I'm gonna go here. This is Guatemala, Antigua, Guatemala, and this city is close to these 4 volcanoes. All these dots that you can see here, all these volcanoes. And there are 3 volcanoes close to Antigua, Guatemala, and 4, and 2 of them are active. So Guatemala, Antigua, Guatemala was the military center for the government of the Spanish colony of Guatemala back in the Spanish period. And all the buildings that were built in that city were designed with the Spanish Baroque style, which this means that they are really ornamented. They have really nice structures pointed out and beautiful. And there is, I want to mention something interesting about Antigua, Guatemala is that all the streets are made of rocks, which make it kind of tricky when you are walking or driving. Yeah, so it's interesting. And if you ever go to Antigua, Guatemala, take this as advice, don't walk too close to the house walls. Kind of walk like maybe 3 feet away from the walls, because I'm pretty sure you will be amazed looking all the buildings, looking volcanoes, and you will not be seeing what is going to be in front of you. And those windows are kind of extended, and they will say maybe 2 feet away from the wall, and maybe you will be, oh, nice, and then I've done it many times, but I got my lesson, I guess. And plus,
I never reported about
Oh, yeah, no worries. It's gonna be advice. And you don't want to damage World Heritage Site considered by UNESCO. So that's really nice.
So, well, before you move, so I was gonna say, so as Guatemalan, if you are getting engaged, this is the place. It's beautiful. That's what I did, by the way.
So let's keep with our tour, and then we're gonna meet the beautiful lake, which is Atitlan. And Atitlan has many interesting facts. Again, surrounded by volcanoes. We have 3 volcanoes around the lake, and but what makes the lake interesting is the people. The people that live surrounded the lake is Mayan villages, and they wear the traditional colorful clothing. It's amazing. They speak. You listen to them and how the way they speak and communicate and how they do commerce around this area is amazing. And the third fact will be is the deepest lake in Central America, 340 meters. Another lake, maybe not as beautiful as the previous one, but is the largest in Guatemala, which has connected to the Atlantic, as you can see in the blue arrow. And surrounded this lake, there is a castle, really well-preserved castle, built by the Spanish people. And the objective to build this was guard the lake against pirates attack. And this is Semuchan Bay. Semuchan Bay is a big monument, natural monument. It's created by limestone. It's a limestone bridge. And before the monument begins, the river goes down. And you don't see the river actually. What you're gonna see is just be small pools that are created on top of that bridge of limestone. And the water that you can see here is a blue-green color. And you can see through that. And there's many things that there are caves that you can dive into in some places. And it's really beautiful. But there is just one thing about this. To get this place, whew, difficult. You need to have a 4x4 wheel car to get into that place. Yeah. And this place is close to another archaeological site, which is Lankin, another famous, but not as Tikal, as Carlos mentioned. This is a summary, but let's move on. That was the place that we visited already. And let's do something like, did you know that some interesting thing that were contributions, inventions, or famous people in Guatemala? So I guess in this room we have a lot of Latino people here and it's a mix. Glad. You want to do like a survey here? How many of you, just try to have, how many of you are familiarized with these 3 images? Okay. Oh, yeah, that was. Okay, well, nice, the 3 of them. I like that. So I'm gonna assume that everybody at least knows this one. This is right. Okay, so this one we call it in Latin America cajita feliz, which translated will be happy box, but actually it's a happy meal. So McDonald's is is international, established, and the first franchise was in the beginning of the 60s and was by a couple, and they got the franchise, and the lady, Yolanda, started noticing the kids were not able to finish a full meal. So we're concerned about. She was really concerned about it. She decided to make the meal smaller, but she added a toy, and that was make the meal happier for children. So it was really interesting addition. And then McDonald's representatives saw this in Guatemala, and they decided to go international. The first place in US was Kansas City, I guess, when they started, but it's interesting. Second one, the second picture is in Caparina. It's a beverage. It's a high protein drink, which is oriented for children. Can be a substitute for milk. If you're gonna taste it, it's really good. I like it. Alejandra didn't like it, but I'm still trying to get in there. In Caparina, it's really nice food. I remember when a child at school, basically, they give you this as a breakfast, and you were lining to get your breakfast ready with a piece of bread. Third one is Duolingo, for those that like to learn different languages. It's a platform that was developed by two guys. One is from Guatemala, and the interesting fact that the most common language that people want trying to learn is English. The second one is French, and I think the third one is Spanish. But you can learn different language here. It's a free app. You can have the premium version, so service with a small fee, I guess. And there's another thing. It's not like Guatemala likes to play with fire, but this is we call Mr. Fuego, and this Mr. Fire. Okay. And this is a lot made of recycled materials and sawdust and paraffin, which lasts longer than the usual wood. And as many of you know, we cook a lot of firewood, but it's very efficient if you wanna cook or to do campfire, I guess. You have to do with this. And because of that, we have a lot of skin bones. So the one that you see in here is another invention that is a biofilm to restore your skin for skin bones. That's what's invented in Guatemala. The lower two pictures is a glyco filter, just to purify water, basically. The one made in the beginning of 80s, and then was commercialized, expanded to all Guatemala. And many of you, you know how this is kind of sometimes painful that you have to go a series of words and maybe you don't understand what you're writing, you are not sure. So actually it was invented also created in Guatemala by the same guy of Duolingo. It's captcha and recaptcha that you're verifying that you are a human. You wanna know that? It's interesting. And this is amazing. Magic lens. And in Guatemala we have a big lottery called Santa Lucia, and all the funds that they got are dedicated to another organization that helps blind and deaf people. And this organization came with this idea to, okay, all these people that are really gratitude, that they want to try to contribute to the lottery, and they want to sell them also the tickets, lottery tickets. So they developed these magic lenses. The person can hold the bill in front of their face, and this lens has a little camera. The camera will detect what bill denomination is, and will send an audio, you know, telling with a voice telling, oh, this bill is, or I'm not sure if that's the way they say this bill, but okay, it's gonna tell them the denomination of the bill, and then that way they can trade the lottery tickets and with the people. So it's really, really cool invention. And then the comal or eco comal that we call. I guess Paul noticed this. Many other people or in my household, we have this kind of stuff, and this one is the most common, which is the not efficient for firewood, and this one was invented to replace this one. You see the chamber when you burn the wood is smaller and will make more efficient of the wood. Well, let's go to the famous people here, and we have two Nobel Prizes, one for peace, Rigoberta Menchú, and then the Literature Nobel Prize, Miguel Ángel Asturias. Of course, we like football. He's a soccer player, Carlos Ruiz. I'm guessing you are familiar with him, right, Eric? And then we have Ricardo Arjona, a singer, a famous singer in Guatemala. And then this is a random picture that I decided to post to Paul visiting Guatemala, and he survived the food, the roads, and all the things that we did over there. And also, maybe when you go to Guatemala, you are going to the most common places, but there are some small places like this that we went. This is a 10-minute drive from my house. It's a waterfall and in a little tiny town and kind of far away. Kind of close to the mountain, but interesting here the water. I was telling today to Angie about this place, and the water here is, I don't want to use the word muddy because it's not muddy, it's brown, it's like a tea. When you make a tea, you look the water, that is the color that you have, but that color is getting because in the mountain there's a plant, and when the water goes to these plant roots, get that color. The water is cool. It's not warm. It's really cool because the place is hot too, but it's a really nice place. And well, if you wanna ever go to Guatemala, visit is helping. But if you wanna retire like an American school bus does, they go to retire to Central America, especially Guatemala. It's a picture from Antigua. This is the station bus in Antigua. Many of we call it chicken buses over there. They change a little bit how they look, but are still the same. And well, I didn't cover anything about food or drink, but okay, let's start with the rum. So rum Zacapa is international renowned rum. You can get it in dealer if you want it. It's really good. It's made for sugar cane. Then we have gallo as a cerveza, which is beer. And this, the food. In Guatemala, probably many of you have heard that we like beans and tortilla. It's made on corn. This dish can be eaten, 3 times a day if you want it. But the beans and the tortilla always is going to be in your table. And we have scrambled eggs with tomato and onion. Let's call it sour cream, but it's not exactly sour cream. Cheese, and I would say it's queso fresco. It's not the same cheese that you got. What you got today was dry cheese, we call queso seco. And of course, this tortilla, and this tortilla are roasted in the comal. And the comal that I showed you, that's what they make. So, any questions? I guess I did it on time. Just running.
1 o'clock.
And a brief announcement, the Celebration of Nations will be on February 25th, and we're looking for volunteers. So please contact Jane Douglas. We always get a mix of faculty, staff, international, US, to work on that very important event. That first round of applause was very deserving for our Guatemalan speakers. The second round of applause, I will note that the singular of tamales is not tamale, it's actually tamal. But it doesn't matter because it's impossible to eat just one. Especially when Ann Monson makes them, so please a round of applause for the The third round of applause for the absent and retiring April Martin for having donated this lovely tree to the Hondurans, all of the Hondurans on our campus who will be speaking next semester. Here. So please direct your questions towards the front, and at the very end we'll have the traditional photograph.
Yes, sir.
How many people in Guatemala City?
More than a million, I think.
I would say like we're getting to the 3 million at this point. Yeah, I think that whole country we are getting to the 17 million, roughly speaking. Yeah, and the vast majority, I would say 60% of those are Maya descendants. So you go to Central America, especially you guys Hondurans, you go to Guatemala and you're like, oh yeah, people are like really different how we look because of the percentage of Maya descendants that we have. It's probably 60%. We are from the area that we don't have as much.
So you can see here the region that we are from.
Yeah.
So even the amount of Mayan dialects that are spoken there is not common.
So don't ask us how to say something. Any other questions? Yes.
What's your biggest holiday?
Easter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's basically, I didn't mention it, but in Antigua, Guatemala, they made this carpet that they follow to around the carpet for during the Eastern time. There are a lot of procession where they make these big structures where they are carrying around the city, and that's I would say that is the biggest holiday.
Yeah, it's one
And
way.
then Christmas, I would say that 1 week and then Christmas.
Yeah.
More people are Catholic.
Yeah. So Christmas is really, in terms of our religion, is probably the second most important, and it is it's very different to here. Like we get together, we stay up until like 12, and we have a huge meal at 12. Everybody hugs each other and say Merry Christmas, and then we eat, and everybody goes home. So it's kind of like different from here.
If you wanna go home.
If you want to go home, or you can just keep going. Yeah, but it's a different setup. And on the 25th, we don't celebrate as much. Like nobody's
You are not feeling
early.
well.
And at 12 o'clock on the 25th, there is like a lot of fireworks, and we have a second meal that we are celebrating the first 12 hours of Jesus Christ being born. Any other questions?
Any Maya festivity?
Yeah, that's a good question. Do you remember in Czech, the region, this one, they do perform all the Maya rituals in this section here. So this is actually a very big area. So you have to walk all the way through, and the back, there is a massive stone circle where they just put like all the offerings and they burn it. They just throw like alcohol, they burn it up, and they are praying. And it's kind of like really interesting to see. Man, I would love to show you like how they are praying. I went there with my fiance, and it is so interesting to hear when they're talking Spanish, and sometimes they switch into their dialects. But they are like reading the Bible, like the Catholic Bible, and then out of the nowhere they switch, and they're like now praying to their gods, and they have this interconnection between Catholicism and whatever their gods they're praying to. One of the, I would say, the most outstanding connection between Catholicism and the Maya, it is the Mashimon. I don't know if you have heard about Mashimon. It is a semi-god that is combining all the Catholicism and all their Mayas, and there is typically a man made of wood that is like covered with different clothes, and what they do, they come over, and if you want to pray to Mashimon for, to get a really nice harvest, you go and you offer cigarettes, alcohol, and money. Nothing like, Catholicism, but you are praying to Mashimon as well as God. I'm talking about, Jesus Christ. And that's kind of like the most bizarre connection. And with my fiance, we had the chance to visit one of the Mashimon. There are like 3 in the whole country. And you go and you ask for permission, you come over, and you can see how they pray. It's really interesting. It is at the Atitlan Lake. They always keep one there, the one that was mentioned. We should show a picture of Mashimon. Yeah. And I have a video, but it's too big to like just load it. Yeah. Any other questions? I think we're all set.
Okay.
Thank you for coming here.
Yeah, thanks a lot.